Welcome to the Wander Creative Podcast, your guide to marketing in the digital world. Episode 3, The Power of Compelling Content.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wander Creative Podcast. My name is Dan. I'm joined here by Abbey and Joseph, both content creation fiends. Very excited to be in this episode. We're going to be talking about the power of compelling content, what makes it compelling, and I have some very good people around me for that because they both make compelling content. So excited not to puff you guys out, but
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
of course,
feels good.
of course. I'm inspired by you guys, so I'm kind of geeking out over here. Okay, so let's walk through. Tell me a little bit about what you do and why you do it. Because you guys are both in different mediums. I mean, you're in video and you're in design. So yeah, walk me a little bit what your role is, and then also why you do that role.
Yeah. I guess I'll start. I just do video production for Wander, and all our clients and internal projects. Kind of do a little bit of a lot, just video editing, producing like shoots and stuff like that. But ultimately my goal is to help further the brands of our clients, just through a video medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of love creating video and film is like been a passion of mine for a while. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and I'm a designer here at Wander and create, kind of the same thing, a slew of different things for our clients, a lot of things for social or email, a few print items as well. But I think it's just a joy to be creative and to be able to take something that feels chaotic or unorganized and really make it fit a client's brand and make it beautiful. So, it's definitely a lot of problem solving, but it's fun and I love to do it.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and say that was the absolute litany of underselling that you guys both just did. Because I mean, like seriously, I mean, Joseph, I remember when you got hired, we looked through your kind of like film reel and I was just like, this guy, I was like, can we afford this guy? Like, this is crazy. And similarly, actually, when we were hiring Abbey on, I remember seeing, and Abbey, you do a lot of photography as well. And you kind of do this cool like blend of photography and design. And I remember seeing, and I do some photography too, and so I remember seeing it and being like threatened out of this world because I was like, like she's really good. I gotta learn some stuff, gotta brush up. So that's exciting. But Joseph, I want to brag on you. So we, for those who are listening and watching, we both geek out over film stuff.
Yeah.
We love it. And it inspires us to create, I think. You definitely in a more direct way because you literally create video. For me, I'm just like, I'm obsessed with like the storytelling and being brought into a narrative.
Yeah.
So walk me through some examples of exceptional content that you've been consuming. And then kind of the follow-up to that is like, what about it draws you in?
Yeah. I mean, most of my inspiration is from movies and stuff like that, TV shows as well. But like the idea that people can create these stories, right, and show them in such a way where it like you spread this story to so many people, and being able to convey that story in a heartfelt and like impactful way is tough, and producing movies and shows and anything is tough, and to see people do it at such a high level is very inspiring for me, and I know a lot of other creators when they see like movies like Dune, like they have like literally the best of the best in the industry, just creating stories that they love, and it's really inspiring.
What was your single favorite thing from Dune?
Man, it's like
you guys are going to be going for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, this is turning into a film episode. I'm sorry.
I mean, the first thing I see, because this is what my specialty is the cinematography from Greg Fraser. I mean, like the he's known for his contrasty images, and Dune is not an exception of that. It is like like you get very very beautiful silhouettes, wides, and
True.
you get those like very like creamy looking close-ups, but it all is like in the realm where it's believable, which a lot of the times you'll get really beautiful shots, but then it doesn't fit the story. So it kind of takes you out. But where in Dune, you're shot into this world where it's like you're in that movie for 2-3 hours, and you don't feel like you're watching a movie.
Yeah, true.
So
That's true, dude. I remember seeing that opening weekend, and I looked over at my buddy who I watched it with, and he and I were like, that was the first movie since like Return of the King, which came out 20 years ago, 20 something years ago, that like a 3-hour movie did not feel like a 3-hour movie. And like I didn't, even if it felt like kind of lengthy, I loved every second. I wanted to stay in it.
yeah.
So that being said, I mean, there's content that inspires us. There's content that draws us in, that drives us to want to create. How do you take inspiration from something like that, or even design and photography and like sick, clean layouts for print and all this stuff? How do you draw inspiration from that and then take that and say, I want to create. I want to now work on a film. I want to now, let that affect the way I design. How do you take that inspiration and translate it to creation?
Well, one thing I like to do is like there's I since I take in so much content from different places, is bring what I like from a lot of other things and like just kind of combine them all into one. Which like in today's day and age, it's really hard to be original.
Yeah.
So like taking those ideas and those like strategies, I guess, and then implementing it to your unique story that you're telling, is what creates originality. And it it's like, again, I mean, there's not a lot you can do that's new. So it's just finding your own way to mix and blend, and maybe find a new like lighting technique or whatever that you like. But it's all about personal taste and pushing that into the narrative.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say the same thing of like just looking at a piece of art or your inspiration and thinking like what makes this captivating, and kind of be able to name those things. I feel like it sounds silly, but being able to pull that out of like, oh, I love the texture on this, or I love the motion on this, and then think in terms of your client or what you're creating. It really has to speak to that brand or it doesn't make sense. So kind of like you were saying, combine everything together in a way that feels unique, but it's also keeping it fresh by being able to look at different things. And I would say even for me, as far as design, like being able to look at different types of art that's not really in the realm of design helps me stay sharp, like whether it is film or sculpture or paintings. I feel like you're able to pull out different principles of art, elements of design, and pull that into your work in a way that feels fresh instead of just copying layout for layout,
Sure.
So,
I agree. I think it's so interesting and so important to be consuming good content if you're a creator, because that is what, I can get super stale, and if I'm like doing photography or whatever, but then seeing great photography, like lately it's like, it's been black and white, and it's like seeing great black and white photography. I'm like, I kind of want to go outside and do a little bit of shooting, So that's great. But, unlike directors, photographers, like that are solo or solo designers, we work for clients. And how do we kind of translate? Because it's easy to be like, I want to create good content that I'm, that's just like my solo passion project. But how do we kind of take inspiration and funnel that into telling stories and compelling, narratives for our clients? Because we serve such a litany of types of clients. How do we do that?
Yeah. I think it really stems from like getting to know the client is like the most important thing. Once you understand the client and what they're trying to tell, it's just natural instinct that is like I can edit a video, right, for whatever client and pushing like just without any if you don't know give me like, oh, this is what the client is looking for, but I don't understand, I don't know what the client is. I can create something that follows those guidelines, but it's not what
Yeah.
the client needs,
Mhm.
you know. Just so like doing your research, understanding the client is like the best way to help them
Right.
and make your job easier too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like if you don't know the client, you don't know the audience, you could create just to create, which I feel like is the temptation of creators to just kind of do what they want to do. And we think in terms of, oh, I really want to be unique and I want to try this new technique. And we're thinking, at least I think a little bit of, okay, layout, like all of the composition. But if I'm not thinking about the audience or the purpose or the goal, the client's not going to be as happy. And it really has to make sense in order for it to be really good design. Because I feel like good design is, or good film photography is just visual communication, and it definitely just enhances the message. So I think if you're not thinking about that, and like selfishly as a creator, I'm just thinking, oh, I want to make something that looks cool, I feel like we're kind of missing the purpose.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, that kind of raises just the question, is the best art that is created with a certain audience in mind, or is it created with the desire to achieve a goal and then just whoever likes it likes it? Like,
Well, I think there's an argument for both sides there. I mean, what a lot of, I think the most popular opinion is to create for yourself and whatever you're feeling at that time and moment. But there are also times where creating with a preset like narrative in mind, that's not necessarily what you're going through at that time,
yeah,
is super impactful. So I mean, there's an argument for both sides, I think. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what you guys kind of described was essentially, I mean, truly our ability to work through what we call the five-fold framework, which we have available on our website. Shameless plug, but
Drop the link.
truly it
Click
is.
the link.
Yeah. Use the code. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have one. But there is a reality of. I mean, it's the way that we work with our clients, which is understanding their core pillars that we've talked about in another episode as well. And I just think that you're right. We do work through that, and like as creators, we create what we know. Like, we don't lower a visual standard or a bar. Like, we create what we think is excellent with what you said, like, is our client's pillars in mind.
Yeah.
And that core messaging of like, hey, I think you nailed it when you said I could hit parameters of them saying, do this, do this, do this. But unless you know the brand, you're going to miss the mark. And I was like, come on, that's so good.
That's fire.
So I think you nailed it. I think that's great. What are some mistakes to avoid when creating compelling content? What do we think? Create good content is the way to avoid bad content.
Yeah,
right?
make it good.
Stop making bad stuff is the number one way to.
I mean, again, just not knowing your audience, not knowing who you're targeting is like the biggest mistake.
Totally.
And I feel like everything else that could go wrong probably stems from that one mistake. But
Yeah. And kind of off of that, I know you guys talked about it in another episode, but kind of just, if you want to stay on trend with everything and get every viral, I don't know, just hit every point, I feel like you're going to confuse your audience. So I think making sure that you are sticking to your message, your goal, understanding your audience, instead of just trying to keep up with the trends in a way that is confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
So we have obviously a videographer and photographer designer here. These two mediums we know can complement each other. We know that they play well with one another. But my question is, for a brand who's like kind of saying, all right, we really want to kind of bring our social media presence together, or our advertising presence, or whatever that needs to be. But we don't really know what, like, should we be leaning into design heavy? Should we be leaning into video heavy? Like, how do they pick that format as best they can.
Are you trying to pit us against each
Yeah,
other?
I am. This
Which
is
one is
a
better,
war.
Joseph or I?
And go. Ding, ding, ding. Like they're in the ring.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? How does someone pick the right format?
I mean, I feel like there's a time and place for either or.
Great
I mean,
answer.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, that was nice.
I mean, I like there's definitely like because again like attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So I mean, video, especially long form, like if it's not capturing you in the first 10 15 seconds, then you've lost your audience. And one thing that stills or graphics or stuff like that is they're really good at like they're, I mean, you don't have to look at, you don't have to invest yourself for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
Whereas video, specifically long form, it's a time investment, and what I think a lot of social media is just competing for people's time. And there's definitely an argument that the more time that you take from your audience, right, the better you're selling your product, you're selling your brand. But I mean, if you miss that mark and you're creating content that's not captivating or like just kind of like drawn out, then people are just gonna go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I feel like there's a time and place for both, and both are kind of needed.
Yeah.
Kind of like Joseph said, I feel like the static imagery, whether it is photography or design, really helps to establish your brand's look and feel. But then I feel like the video, I mean, just with sound, motion, you're able to get so much more of a personality behind the client. So I feel like it is good to have both to kind of lock people in and then get to know them more through video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joseph, I was thinking about trends and TikTok dances and all the things older folk might think is a little cringy, but there's a world for it. And my question to you is, as like a videographer, critiquer of the cinematic experience, what are your thoughts on TikTok dances and those? Does it kill you inside, or are you like, it's just such a different format, I don't really care?
mean, I think there's a reason why it's so big.
Yeah.
Like it definitely has its merit. Like obviously it's not what I gravitate towards regularly, but I mean, like scrolling through TikTok, I mean, I think most people in today's age is like they've spent a couple hours at least on TikTok once or twice.
We all don't like to admit it, but we have.
But I mean, yeah, it's like that. That kind of content is perfect for that platform. I mean, like let's say a short film or a short commercial or anything that's not going to do well for the most part on stuff like that where everything is super short, like under like 15-ish seconds. But I mean,
with a little dance.
Yeah. It's like
Forget about
it's all like if you can do something bizarre and like whatever, and it captivates your audience, as long as you're telling your narrative and brand cohesively with that, I have no problem with it.
I don't know if you guys did this or if it was just me and my friends when we were growing up, but like when like webcams were just kind of invented, getting started, we would do like the filters and
like on photo booth, we would do like and stuff.
And we would do like homemade movies.
Totally.
You'd set your computer up and then act the scene out or whatever. I feel like TikTok is like the new generation version of that. Like the homemade movie. It's like,
but they look like so much more quality than the ones that I used to
They're
make.
a little more polished than we used to do. Stepped up. So what excites you guys about what you do? Not just for our clients, but like just in your lane, like what's exciting you about video, about photography and design, what really gets you passionate?
I mean, it's again, seeing other people's work is a big thing. But also like I get like periods in time where I just get super inspired by like an event in my life or that I see in other people's lives or around the world or whatever, that will inspire me to create something. And I think it's just like this, like it kind of ebbs and flows, and inspiration comes and goes. But like it's what I love to do, and whenever I get inspired, that's what I gravitate towards. And yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good, nice answer. I feel like mine is more like out of a competitive nature. But I feel like there's just such easy access to more quality gear these days. Like everyone has an iPhone, which it just creates a lot more like amazing content than back in the day when there were only few people who had quality gear. But I feel like that definitely is just like upping the game a little bit. And depending on what's going on in the culture, if we're all a little bit more used to creating video for social media or whatever, I feel like it just puts a little bit of a fire in me to like stay ahead of that, of what the culture is doing. So yeah, I would say, I don't know, just as a creative, you're always kind of trying to push, be a little bit more unique, create more unique work than you did last time. And I think as kind of social media and all of that is a little bit more advanced, it kind of pushes you to think like, how can I make this, my work look even more like higher quality and all of that. So
That's good.
Yeah.
What would you guys say is, this is just off the cuff, but what's like the next thing you would like to work on? What like personally work on in terms of video or design photography?
There's so many things.
Yeah.
I could go on for hours. But I mean, I think for most video creators, filmmakers, the big goal is to make a feature film.
Yeah.
And that's always been a goal of mine. Definitely just like not make any feature film, but something that I'm passionate about, something that I relate to.
Sick.
Other than that, like I love music and I love like music content, specifically music videos. Are always like super, super fun to create.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Very good answer.
Well, mine's going to sound less impressive than a feature film.
Yeah.
But I would say probably playing more with film photography, which you play with a little bit. But I think just kind of reverting back to some old techniques is a way to kind of freshen up, like we talked about, kind of combining trends, but also things from the past. And so I think just exploring that a little bit more is cool. But
That's so fun.
Yeah. What about you? Photographer.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of me wants to get back into film because I started in film before digital. So before I touched a digital camera, I only shot film. And then, which is so fun because you do get to learn why things are the way they are before I get to like digital ISO. What does that mean? Well, let me tell you about film. You know, it's like, and so that was cool. It's expensive now though. So I'm kind of like, I don't know.
And you got to have some patience. I don't have patience.
The patience is fun because then it's like, I forgot that I even shot this picture. For me, I would say within photography, it's just, I think I touched on this last season even, but I really enjoy the element of a candid photo. So I truly, you know, you guys have probably heard me say this. I disagree with the idea of a posed photo, like putting your arms around each other in front of Mount Rushmore is a no-no. You take a picture of people enjoying Mount Rushmore. But I think that that's something I want to continually get better at is just like the art of candid photography, of kind of like snapping pictures and not letting people know you're there. Because then when you look at that photo, you actually see people enjoying the moment, laughing with each other, and you go, oh, that was what that memory was like.
Yeah, memory.
From my eyes, from my standpoint, people putting their arm around each other and looking at a camera and smiling was not what they did in front of me. Where I'm just for no reason not taking a photo and they say, hey guys, Dan. And they just smile and you're like, yeah. So I love photos that actually feel like memory. And that's something I always want to get better at.
And with film, I feel like that just pairs so well.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's very cool. And it feels more like a memory when you do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what challenges do you guys face when creating? So we've talked a lot about what kind of stuff you like to create, how it applies to our clients. But what challenges do you run into? Abby, what do you think?
I don't know. Where do I begin? I feel like a lot of it is Yeah, just trying to take, I mean, we've touched on this so many times, but trying to take what's current and trying to push the envelope a little bit further, but do it in a way that speaks to the client's brand.
Yeah.
So I feel like, it's hard to be able to think about trends and also what's going to last, like, and stand the test of time. So I feel like that's been maybe the challenge for me, but.
I feel like for me, it's, which I know a lot of other video people can relate, is budgets. Budgets are always a problem because, I mean, especially with people that are like starting out or like even a couple years into the video creation space, you're always trying to level up, right? And each project you want to do better than the last, but then some projects are, you might have a project that has a budget of, let's say, $10,000, and then your next one is like 2,000, right?
Sure.
And you're like, how can I do better than this $10,000 video
With less.
with
Yeah.
less than a quarter of the budget?
Right.
So it's like trying to be creative and work within those parameters. And it's all about just finding something new that that is compelling and interesting
Yeah.
within that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you will run into challenges. Like, I think, even within our roles at Wander, one of our challenges is how can we kind of not, I don't want to just say beat the competitor, even though that's true. It's saying, how can we really, in a world that's vying for the audience of our clients, how do we get their attention? How do we be one that stands out? How to be one that creates content that's so good that they can't help but look or click or engage? How do we tell that story? And it's always an honor to be able to do that for our clients. And I think you guys do it really well.
Yeah.
So that being said, what was one of the projects that you guys, this could be at Wander, this could be or personal, a client or a project that you are most proud of, that you're like, dang, that really, that felt good, felt right,
Wow. I think there's so many.
So many.
I think one for me was like a passion project. There's like film competitions called the 54 and 48 here in Nashville and also around the country. That basically you're timed to, you have, let's, for the 48 for example, you have 48 hours to write a script, shoot the script,
That is
and edit
crazy.
it.
Dang.
And whatever you get, and it's like they give you a genre, they give you like a prop that you need to use, a character that you need to
Wow.
have,
Wow.
That
a
is
line of
crazy.
dialogue,
Is
just
that
to
so
keep
you
you
can't
original. Yeah.
create it or like create
Ahead
it
of
before
time.
it starts?
Yes. Yeah. It
Got it.
has to all be within that time frame.
Wow.
And those are always super, super challenging. But
Yeah.
I mean, me and my friends have done it for I think the last 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And each time it's like, oh, we don't think we're gonna get through this, and then we
Yeah.
end up getting through it, and it's like, we look back and we're like, oh, we made that.
How do you
Yeah.
sleep during? Do you not sleep at all?
You get sleep when you can. It's
That
like
is
whether
crazy.
that be like a good 6 hours is solid.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's
or
wild.
like an hour,
Sure.
like a little
Wow.
nap.
That's
But yeah, it's just it's always super, super satisfying at the end of it, because it's like
Yeah.
it's so tough, but whenever you get through it, it's
Mhm.
just like, okay, we made that. This looks good. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
That's good.
Which I think, because we just talked about challenges, I kind of agree. I feel like the ones that are the hardest that you have to push through are often the most rewarding.
Yeah.
Even like there's a project that was more like editorial style photography, and it just like, there were so many challenges that came up of trying to make it work. But I think when it comes together and you learn so much when you're kind of like put in the fire a little bit, and learn through trial and error. So I feel like those are for sure the most rewarding and push us forward as creatives when we're kind of tested in that way. So yeah.
That's so good. And I think that an element of that is, kind of the hope in us talking about all this content creation is to help inspire and encourage and push other people who are wanting to create for their brands, create for their music, create for their, product. What would be y'all's advice? I mean, you guys are professionals in the space, in the industry. What would be your advice to people who are like, all right, I'm looking at starting photography for XYZ, or leaning into videography for my brand, or I need more of that? What would be your way to encourage them?
I would say focus on your narrative, focus on your story. Um, all the technical is important, but your story comes first. You can create a story with your iPhone.
Yeah.
You don't need a $5,000, $10,000 camera. It's nice to have. It helps you. I mean,
We'll
I'm
take it.
Yeah, if it's-
I will be the first one to say, I want this camera, I want this,
Yeah.
whatever. But in the big picture, it's just a tool
Yeah.
to tell your story, and
Yeah.
I mean the story is the meat and potatoes of what you're doing. So
Meat and potatoes. Love
yeah.
it. What would you say?
I would say probably just, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but just to start, I feel like it's easy when I was beginning in designer photography to think I kind of have to know all these techniques before I even get started. And like I just talked about, it's a lot of trial and error. And so I think it's easy to just think there's someone more creative than me, or I don't really have the skills to do what it takes. But I think just the act of starting will build confidence as you create more and more. And the client really likes what you made, and you just feel more and more confident. But I think it's freeing to think like there's always going to be someone who's trying something new or more creative or more skilled in that area you want to grow in. And so I think, yeah, it's just feel free to mess up and just keep trying. I think we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome when it comes to creating and just thinking like, I don't have the skills, like all the skills to create what I want to create. But I think just as you keep doing it, you definitely build confidence. And over time, you just,
And even then, it's like not even finding the right way. It's just finding the way that you enjoy, and what your taste leans towards, because everybody's gonna be a little different. They might light a photo or a video a different way than this other person, or whatever. They might have just different techniques.
Yes.
But whenever you find what you like, what you gravitate towards, just take that and run with it. Pretty much, yeah.
For sure.
Guys, so good. So much to chew on. If you're listening or watching this, start from the beginning, redo it, because you probably need to watch it again.
Yeah, and then go watch Dune.
And then go watch Dune. So I'll end it on this question. Do the greatest artists create from scratch, borrow, or steal?
It's a
Tough question to end on.
Yeah.
philosophical question.
Yeah.
I think it's a mix of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you definitely do have to create from scratch here and there. But definitely, like, there is no project in today's day and age where it's like you completely
Like totally new.
like you don't grab some sort of inspiration from or
something
whatever.
else.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's a mix of everything, and you don't. I want people to not feel pressured to, you have to make this from scratch. Like you can't you can't draw inspiration. Creativity is such a social thing. I think it's a human experience, and learning from other people is one of our greatest tools. So yeah,
Standing on the shoulders of giants, kind of.
yes, yeah.
Love that.
That's good. Can't go after that. But I would say, probably borrowing and kind of a combination of it all. I feel like when you talk to creatives and you talk about like stealing work, I'm like, please don't steal my work. I don't want you to copy me, please. But I think there is an element that you draw inspiration from. There's so many creatives. So someone's probably made something similar to what you're thinking of, but just kind of combining in a way that it feels fresh and unique, and you're kind of pushing yourself as a creative to get better and better. But I would say a combo.
Totally. Well, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And if you guys are listening or watching, thank you all. Stay tuned. We have a lot more coming, but until then, We'll see y'all next time.
Amazing.
Thanks for joining us on the Wander Creative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you missed any of the highlights, don't worry. You can find all of the show notes at wandercreative.com/podcast. While you're there, consider signing up for the digital drop to get new episode alerts, the latest in digital marketing news, tips, and tools delivered straight to your inbox. Until next time.